I would like to do my project on celiac disease, so gluten-free, not just a diet. What is celiac disease? Okay, I forgot my notebook. Sorry. So, what is celiac disease? It's an autoimmune disease, which means it's the body's response to its own cells. It finds them as foreign and decides to attack them. And so celiac is triggered by the ingestion of gluten, which is a protein found in wheat or rye or barley and some other grains. And so the body attacks the villi proteins in the small intestine. It's very sensitive to cross-contamination, so even trace amounts of gluten, little crumbs on a toaster or in an oven, something like that could fall on the gluten-free food could cause a reaction. And so what are villi proteins? They are projections in the small intestine which help absorb nutrients into the body. And so when they're attacked through this autoimmune reaction, then the nutrients can't be absorbed, which causes usually digestive problems. So in terms of symptoms, a trigger is needed for the genes that cause celiac disease to become activated. So celiac is caused by two specific genes, and they're in many people have these genes, but there needs to be something early in life, like an infection, that somehow sets it off. And people aren't really sure why this happens or how, but that they know that there needs to be some sort of trigger or experience that makes it become active. And usually symptoms of celiac for children include digestive problems and nutrient deficiencies, because if they can't eat things like wheat or rye or barley, there are other nutrients in there other than gluten, such as wheat has a high iron content, so they might have an iron deficiency. So in terms of treatment, the only solid treatment as of now is a gluten-free diet, which the world has made pretty accessible with things like gluten-free bread, which may sound impossible, but there are substitutes for wheat flour that can be made. And so that's really the only viable option right now. But there are several experimental kinds of treatments, such as a temporary resistance pill, which is still in development. So you would take this pill when going to a restaurant if you weren't sure if they were completely up to date with their cross-contamination. This pill wouldn't completely protect you enough to eat, say, a grilled cheese sandwich, but it would protect against small trace amounts. There's also a form of exposure treatment that is sort of like, it's exposing the body to gluten in a safe environment so that the body, those autoimmune proteins who say, oh, this is bad, they realize, okay, this is okay, it's my friend, it's okay, it's not bad. So the way that celiac is passed down, I mentioned it earlier, it's through HLA genes, which are genes that encode for immune system proteins. So they provide instruction for the immune system proteins, and they tell them what is foreign or scary or dangerous, and then those immune system proteins find those foreign cells and they display them to the arrested immune system. It's like a giant flag saying, this is bad, kill it. And so how does this connect to celiac disease? Is that there are two HLA alleles, HLA-DQ2 and HLA-DQ8. And like I said earlier, a lot of people have these. So here's the entire population of the United States. And then this white circle is the people who have one of those two alleles. And then this little circle right here is the people that have celiac disease. So not everyone who has this has one of these alleles gets celiac, because there needs to be something that triggers it, sets it off. And 30% of people have one of these alleles. Celiac is an autoimmune disease, and the later age of diagnosis, so the later that a doctor finds out you have celiac, or the later you've been eating gluten before finding out, oh, you have celiac, the higher chance you have of developing another autoimmune disease. So I know this chart is a little drawing away from the whole presentation, but I'd just like to show some information right here of just, as you can see, as the age of diagnosis increases, so does the chance of developing another autoimmune disorder. And these are disorders that people who have, the celiac is more prevalent in people who have these diseases. And the ones that I would like to focus on most are the most common, autoimmune hepatitis and type 1 diabetes. So autoimmune hepatitis is the scarring of the liver. It's an autoimmune response to liver cells, and it can lead to liver failure in extreme cases, which can require a liver transplant. And 6% of people who have autoimmune hepatitis have celiac disease, which is a pretty big overlap. And the other one I want to talk about is type 1 diabetes, which is the autoimmune response to pancreas cells. And pancreas cells produce insulin, which is a protein that helps the body absorb glucose, which we kind of need to survive. And so a patient with type 1 diabetes needs regular insulin injections to survive and get that glucose they need. And so as you can see, the autoimmune overlap is very important. And why did I choose this project? Some of you may be asking that, like, why celiac disease? That's why. That is my brother, and he has celiac disease. So I've always known that. I've gone through my life saying, okay, he can't eat gluten, which is in wheat, I think. And I've had gluten-free food in my house. I've eaten it. It's really not that bad. But I've never really understood how it was passed down, why it happens, and I wanted to know more about that for this project, and I figured that this would be a perfect opportunity. And also, other people don't really know about celiac disease. When someone says, "Oh, I can't eat gluten," they usually have one of two assumptions. One, they have a gluten allergy, which is completely different from celiac disease. It's a lot less serious. There's not as many long-term side effects. Two, they're on a gluten-free diet, which people tend to look down on a little bit, seeing as I said before, when you don't eat gluten, there's a lot of nutrients that you might not get enough of, so it really doesn't make that much sense. And so I wanted to educate people about celiac disease because it's not a very commonly known. And just to give you a little bit about my brother, and to end this presentation on somewhat of a light note, so I took this picture of him, and he said, oh, give me your phone, give me your phone. I said, why? So he took my phone, and he takes this image, and he crops it a little bit, and that's my brother. These are the resources I used for my project. Images cited. All right, thank you. Do you have any questions?
One thing that he did well and one thing he needs to work on.
Can I ask a question first?
Go.
So like, why do people on gluten-free diets lose weight?
Honestly, it depends. They might just be eating less because there is a lot of things have gluten in them, and so if you're not eating those things, you just might not be eating as much of everything else.
So I liked your pace. You went at a good rate. There were a lot of facts.